RTHK Radio 3.
You're listening to the 123 show with me, Noreen Mir, this Thursday afternoon. Let's turn to our very first topic and guest of today. In the next 15 minutes or so, we're chatting with musician and teacher Sam Barbour about his debut children's book, The Litter Bug. And I'm really delighted that Sam joins us this afternoon. Welcome to the program, Sam. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Noreen. It's a pleasure.
So we are live on Facebook as well this afternoon. For our listeners, feel free to join us this afternoon. Noreen Mir on RTHK Radio 3 is the page to go to, and you'll be able to see and hear Sam there. So congratulations, by the way, your very first children's book.
Yes, such a great feeling.
Yes, it must be so amazing to see it in the shelves.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, back in April this year when it arrived at my home, I was so delighted to hold the actual book in my hands. It was like a baby, really.
Absolutely.
And wonderful feeling, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, tell us the process, but maybe we'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah.
First of all, tell us a little bit more about the book, The Little Bug.
The Litter Bug started out as a drama script for my students. I'm a teacher by trade. I work at a wonderful school in Kwai Fong, and it's called Buddhist Lim Kim Tian Memorial Primary School. I've had the pleasure of working there for many years. And I also co-teach the drama team. And The Litter Bug was my first attempt at writing an original story, fresh, from ideas. And I added a song as well, an original song. And I was inspired to continue that practice thereafter. That was back in 2016. But it wasn't until fast forward into 2020 when I thought about the idea of writing a story for children. And I had several stories to kind of choose from, but I chose The Litter Bug because that was the first original story that I'd written for kids. So from around August 2020, up until, like I said, April 2022 this year, when I got the book in my hand, that was the length of time it took to kind of flesh the script out from around 2,000 words to start off with to around 18,000 words, over 100 pages in what you see today, which is the Litter Bug.
Yeah, hold it up for our listeners for Facebook. You'll be able to see Sam's book, The Litter Bug. Wow, so it originally was for the stage. Now that you see it, on the page, how much did you have to sort of flesh out? How much of it changed? How much of it did you have to keep adding to it?
Yes, it was a great experience, actually. And the story evolved through the course of the writing process. And I actually evolved as well. I learned so much from that process, I was mentored by a very well-known author called Sandra Glover in the UK, who, as part of a literacy consultancy called Cornerstones in the UK, I was partnered with her as my mentor. So she helped me a lot in that process of speeding up the dialogue in the story, adding some new ideas, potential avenues for the main character to go down, and of course the moral themes as well that I would like to get across. So the actual stage performance of the show is very different from the book. Of course, you've got 2,000 words to play with in a drama script and, 10 or 15 minutes on stage, but this book kind of goes way beyond what the script did, actually. So it's very exciting, I think.
It's almost like a new skill, really, from carrying the narrative through conversation. Now you have to have a sort of a different way to tell the story.
Yes,
conversation
actually.
And, I suppose, a narrator.
Yeah, I learned so much about the process during this, 18 months to 2 years. It was a wonderful experience, coming from a position where I had a drama script and then I had this idea only. I wanted to write this book, but then how do you make it a reality? Yeah. And I found that it's building blocks step by step. Contact the consultancy, have a mentor, work on the edits with the mentor, and just give time to it every day, I would say.
Exactly. Did you treat it like a sort of like a job? Or after hours job?
I approached it in a way that much as I would music, if you practice a little bit every day, then the benefit will come. Whereas if you just practice once a week for a long period of time, I find that that's not very useful. So I kind of chipped away at it, really, in a kind of, I would say, a workman-like manner. Because it's my first book, so a lot of things were slow at the beginning, but once you get your rhythm, once you get the into your kind of groove of writing, then it's very exciting, because you go into your session, so to speak, and you don't know where you're going to end up. And I remember Roald Dahl, he mentioned something in an interview that I watched way back. He said that you go into kind of a nest, you get into a nest when you're writing, and then you come out of it in kind of a daze. And I could completely relate to that, actually, because I could only really write for a couple of hours per day when I was kind of fleshing the whole thing out, and then I would be very tired, actually, physically and mentally. Even though you're just sitting there writing, it's surprising how taxing it is. So
what do you do when you have writer's block? Do you are there certain skills or things that you've learned along the way?
I think I tend.
Or maybe you don't have any.
Fortunately, yeah, I didn't encounter a lot of it, actually, but I encountered moments where I didn't know. I kind of hit a crossroads, if you know what I mean. I could go kind of many different directions, and Bud, the protagonist of the story, I wasn't sure where to take him, and whether that would work out for him in the end, So it was sometimes I would kind of backtrack on myself and go over what I'd written up to that point, and then you would kind of, from there, you would find a way forward.
Yeah.
I would say so, but thankfully I didn't hit any major roadblocks. So,
without giving too much away, can you share with us the plot of your story?
Yeah, sure. It's very much centered on a normal boy in Hong Kong, a 10-year-old boy, and this boy loves eating junk food. Any kind of junk food you can imagine, he will eat it, and he loves it so much that he doesn't think of the consequences of his actions. And worst of all, he likes to throw away the rubbish after he's eaten the snacks on the floor. And if he throws the rubbish on the floor, he litters, so he's a litter bug. And all his friends are telling him, you shouldn't litter. All his teachers are telling him, please don't litter. His parents are saying to him, don't litter, but he doesn't listen. And one day, he discovers a brand new sweet shop around the corner from his school when he's kind of walking around looking for places to spend his pocket money. And he finds this sweet shop called Strangely Sweet, and it just appears out of nowhere, and he decides to go in, and then that changes the course of his life then, because he meets new people, he has new adventures, and he learns things along the way. So
why was it important for you to write a story about Hong Kong and with Hong Kong characters?
I feel like I've been here since 2007, since I graduated, and I came out here, and I've had the pleasure of working at my school since 2009. Wow. So I'm very, very much attached to my school and very grateful for their support down the years. And as I say, the book is centered on the main character, Bud. And you can imagine him at my school. I can imagine this kind of character at my school. I see this kind of character every day, running around in the corridor, that kind of thing. And I thought, it would be nice to have a story centered on a normal student at this school, unnamed kind of school in the book, but very much my school, in Kwai Fong, which is where I work. And often after lunch,
cool
I'll go.
Neighborhood.
Yeah,
It really
lovely.
Is. It is
lovely
really
neighborhood, yeah. And I always enjoy kind of walking around the neighborhood after lunch.
And just watching what's going on.
Like the market and some little side streets. Like there's a scene in the book, The Dark and Dirty Alley. There's lots of alleys in Hong Kong, so this kind of gave me the inspiration for that as well. And, walking along, and then I can actually visualize the street where this Strangely Sweet shop is, near my school, actually. So it's very much about Hong Kong for my students. I really wanted to write something that they can relate to, they can personalize with, I recognize Kwai Fong Estate, or the Star Ferry, or somewhere else like that in Hong Kong, So,
absolutely. It's so nice to have that sort of representation. I grew up in Hong Kong, and every time, there's very few books about Hong Kong and with Hong Kong children, but there are quite a few now. And it's really nice for children who grow up in Hong Kong to see that, because usually the English books that we grew up with are usually from the UK or US.
Yeah, absolutely. I would, I was keen to write something that they could relate to. And also I could write with a degree of kind of authenticity, really, because I've been here for quite a long time, so I kind of know the way around Kwai Fong and other areas, so I can put that into the book.
Yeah. What sorts of reactions have you had so far? Have you shown some of your students, were they sort of thrilled to see their teacher now an author?
Yes, it's very much in the early stages. I published the book on the 3rd of June this year, so it's just over a month, and it has been doing quite well at bookshops in Hong Kong. You know, it's been restocked actually in one particular shop, and it's out there. It's available now online, and I've had some reviews of the book on Amazon. And in terms of my students, I haven't really introduced the book yet, but I'm working with my colleagues on how to integrate the book into the curriculum, you know, kind of focusing on key issues such as environmental protection, littering, nature, like that kind of thing. So kind of trying to perhaps weave parts of it perhaps into a lesson where if I've got some time I can read to them from the book itself. Just when I was a child, I remember my teacher in P3, she used to read Roald Dahl to us just from the book, and it was a very magical experience. So
everybody sitting on the carpet, legs crossed.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you know, all the kids are kind of almost ready to go home, but then suddenly she brought out this book, and this, for me, the book that was a catalyst was Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Oh,
and that really kind of
yes.
inspired me to take up reading at that early age. So I was around 8.
Yeah.
And then from then on, I was interested in reading.
Yeah, around 7 or 8, it was Matilda for me.
Matilda,
Yes.
yeah. Lovely book, yeah. And I kind of went through most of the books then by Roald Dahl and then other authors, and, you know, it kind of grew from there. I think the love of reading stemmed from, you know, first my parents reading to me, and then my teachers reading in that kind of way. So.
Yeah, part of it is also to encourage better reading habits for students. Hong Kong students are renowned for being super busy. I think one study done by Pearl's report are saying that Hong Kong students are really good at reading. They rank at number 1 globally, but because they're so busy, they just don't find the enjoyment or the time to read. Which is super unfortunate. As an educator, as a teacher, as a parent, how do you encourage better reading habits for students and children in Hong Kong?
I personally feel like each student should feel a sense of success in the classroom, take something away from the lesson, and it's our duty as a teacher, as a facilitator, to facilitate that environment for them where they can take risks and they're not scared to make mistakes reading wise, you know. But it all centers on fun for me. I mean, I feel like if students enjoy reading, and if they can feel the love of teaching from their teachers, you know, which our students can, then I feel like that will inspire them. And of course, having regular interaction with different types of text types as well, original texts, you know, not just kind of prescribed books, but also
Not just
real
textbooks,
books, so
yeah.
to speak.
Oh,
you know,
okay, I see what you mean.
you know, and kind of exposure to that as well. So yeah.
Sam, I see the illustrator for your book is Kay Wong. Talk us through the collaboration process, because this book was sort of produced and written during the pandemic.
Yes, August 2020, kind of start-off date, really. And Kay is a lovely friend of mine. She's from Hong Kong, and she's a very talented artist. And she's previously designed some artwork for my Teacher Ham YouTube channel,
Yes.
and kind of the CDs that I released on CD Baby, things like that. And then I kind of asked her whether she'd be interested in collaborating on this project, you know, and she was wonderful. You know, from the very beginning we collaborated in a very harmonious way, and she understood exactly what I was trying to say, because personally I'm not good at drawing at all. I've never been good at drawing. Yeah, my students will laugh at me, you know, if I try to draw something on the board, but I could give her the chapter, you know, the writing, and then kind of convey what I wanted to say, share the feelings about it, and then she would go away and come up with a draft, and then we would kind of go through the draft. To be fair, there was quite a lot of drafting involved, and there was a lot of changes made through the kind of middle of the process towards like kind of the 3/4 way mark. It's all because at that time the book was still evolving,
Yes.
chapter wise as well. I was still not 100% sure how many chapters were going to be in the book, and then I would like an illustration for each chapter. So now sometimes I would have to go back and say, can you redo this one, or just add a little bit here. It was always kind of fine tuning. Actually, it was because I wanted the pictures to relate as much as they could to what I was trying to say in the text, and the kids could get something from the pictures immediately and try and build their understanding from the pictures. You know, so which is, I think, just as important as the text.
Sounds like you have a really good working relationship to have that sort of flexibility, and that's the whole beauty of.
It was very flexible, yeah, very much so, because I mean, first of all, we are friends, and Kay is an old classmate of my wife, so they go back a long time, you know. So very good friends, and that kind of relationship was very helpful in that sense, you know. Or if I forgot something, which often I did, you know, I forgot a little character or some detail in the illustration, and then I would be able to ask her about that, and then she would kindly kind of fill it in. So
yeah, not like somebody new working with you, like, oh, not again, another revision.
yeah, it was an enjoyable process, and I think as the project grew and neared the kind of completion date, we were both very excited about that. And of course, when it was released, I gave her a copy, and then she was very happy to hold the copy in her hand. You know, it's also her baby as well.
Exactly, so, it's
like
a baby.
It's really like, you know, like a baby. So from the very kind of first moment, the idea, and then shaping the text through the story, and then adding the illustrations and everything else. Yeah.
What did you sort of learn along the way, Sam? You're self-published, this book, and there's so much to learn with that. It's really not it's a big sort of undertaking. When I speak to authors, it's sort of feeling their way. You've got to find the right connections or speak to the right people. How did you go about it, and what sorts of tips can you share with some of our listeners?
Yeah, sure. I very much wrote from the heart to begin with. You know, this was It's not really a kind of vanity project or anything like that. It was very much a book that I wanted to write for practical use, for my family, first of all, for my students. I can have it as an extra reader, an extra resource, and I wanted to make it as good as I could. So I took quite a long time in kind of shaping the product. In terms of self-publishing, yes, I mean, in some ways it's a lot quicker than being signed to a publishing house, but that comes with pros and cons. First of all, you're responsible for all of your marketing. That depends on how much you want to do and how far you want to take that. But it requires a lot of kind of I would say doing everything by yourself and trying to think, you know, who would like this book, and emails and contacting people and that kind of thing, putting out the word of the book. For example, the press kit is a technique that I used for my album last year, my music, and I found that when I was emailing radio stations, etc., if I had a press kit that they could click on with one button and they would access everything they needed, you know, the songs, a little letter perhaps, a couple of photos, that would kind of fill them in terms of what my style was like, whether it was suitable for them. And I used the kind of press kit idea for the book. I think I gave the first chapter as a PDF, along with a covering letter, you know, talking about the kind of dimensions of the book, A5 and 104 pages, 16 illustrations, you know, that kind of thing. So that helped when I was reaching out to try and drum up support. And apart from that, you know, that's all I've done, to be honest, so far. And, you know, because I feel like once the product is out there, sitting on the shelf, so to speak, then it's kind of, in a way, it's out of your hands. It's up to the public then to decide whether they will like it or not. And so far, the reception has been good. I'm delighted about it, you know. But actually, I'm already thinking about my next.
I was going to say,
book.
what's in the pipeline now?
You know, once you see something kind of launch, set sail, and it's slowly kind of disappearing over the horizon, you're thinking, what can I do next? Because I just like to keep busy with projects like involving writing, you know, in general. So
to have that sort of creative outlet.
And I often find that the more you do, the kind of more fluid the process becomes. I won't say that I'm a better writer now, but I would say that I'm used to the path I'm aware of the path that you should walk along as a writer, and what to expect along the way. Like, for example, you were saying a writer's block. Personally, I feel like the writing is one aspect of the process. Another big process is once you've got the book, how do you get it out there? That's another huge thing, and I'm not I don't have a background in marketing or anything like that, so I'm kind of doing everything on my own. So that's it's like a game of two halves, if you know what I mean. It's very,
Another level to the game.
And you know, each time you kind of make a contact or build a network, then you can learn something from that, I think.
Exactly.
So,
Finally, Sam, where can we find out more about the Litterbug? Are you on social media? How can people get themselves a copy?
Sure. I have a website called sambarbour.com, which is very easy. It's a place where you can find everything that I've shared with the world so far, you know, my books and my music, sambarbour.com. If you're interested in purchasing the Litterbug, you can find that in Hong Kong in paperback format, which is available at Kelly and Walsh bookstore in Pacific Place, and also the Hong Kong Book Centre in Central. It's also available at the amazing Vibe Book and Music Shop on Mui Wo. And if you would like an ebook version, you can purchase that on Amazon and, as they say, all good bookshops around the world. So that's so far that's where the book can be found. Yeah.
Sam,
Thank
congratulations, and I look forward to your next project and inviting you back on to talk about your next book. It sounds like it's in the pipeline.
Yes.
Meanwhile, congratulations once again on your debut book, The Litterbug, which is available online and also from various bookshops around Hong Kong. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.